As Helen said, it's about the challenge of designing ethical AI tools for education. Before I begin, can everybody hear? Good, excellent. See a thumbs up. So I'm going to introduce a tool that's a kind of prototype tool, a developmental tool. Um, but before I do so, we're going to do a little bit of history. It's called the Turing Tutor. So if we cast our minds back, I know we wouldn't have been around, or some of us might have been around in kind of 1939. And at Bletchley Park, you had Alan Turing and his team, and they were looking obviously to crack the Enigma code. And you may or may not know that when they did manage to crack the code with the kind of bomb machine in the background, they had a real ethical dilemma, and that was they could now predict where the Germans were going to attack, but they didn't want to allude or give any clues to the Germans that they had indeed cracked the code. So you see this map as a big ethical dilemma. What information are we going to tell our commanders to save lives? And kind of broad estimates put or kind of general estimates put that Turing and his team saved kind of about 2 years from the war. Okay, and I wonder what Turing would think of today's generative AI tools, and I kind of named the tool that we've developed in his honor. And would he be excited? Would he be apprehensive about the kind of risks that are associated therein? We don't know. Okay, so just as a bit of backstory, around two summers ago, so the summer of 2023, I was sat down with a colleague, and they said to me, Dan, if we could solve this kind of problem of FE and HE students using generative AI platforms like ChatGPT to kind of to cheat on their assignments, this would be a massive win. So I kind of thought, well, can't we build an AI system to solve this AI problem, which is very kind of meta. So we're going to use AI to solve an AI problem. And centered around that was, well, we don't want to kind of completely outlaw the use of AI. Some uses of AI acceptable and some aren't. So that's where we get into our AI assessment scale, and I'm sure kind of many of you are familiar with this. If not, it's kind of developed by Furs and colleagues, and they piloted it in a non-technical way with HE students. I forget the institution where they piloted, but they kind of showed a massive decrease in the use of AI in a manner that kind of undermined academic integrity. So you've got this kind of scale, and you could argue based on the institution, based on your awarding body, based on your values as a tutor, as a lecturer, what constitutes acceptable use. And probably the easiest one to define, or kind of two ones to define, are no AI. It's just assessment as normal. You use your Word document, you research on Google Scholar. It's a kind of old-fashioned way, so to speak. And then you've got getting Gen AI to complete your whole essay, which most people would argue, most but not all would argue that's not okay. So we kind of had this tool, and then I started prototyping a software solution. And kind of I had these ideas, but I wanted kind of clarity from the end user, the students and staff. I wanted to know what they thought. And so there's this kind of research process called co-design. So it's not kind of it's not like a placebo-controlled double-blind trial. Sorry, as a background, I didn't introduce myself. I'm a science lecturer by trade, and my other role is a quality manager. So that's my background. So it's not kind of a gold standard experiment, but it's a useful tool for to creating a useful system. So it's kind of lots of meetings back and forth with staff, and kind of had a prototype and tested in front of students, and kind of here were the feedback points. Okay, so students, I want guidance. I don't want it to do the work for me. A lot of students were apprehensive. I know Jisc have done a great kind of produced a couple of great reports with regards to student perceptions of the use of AI, which are very much worth a read. And initially when I designed it, my idea was, let's kind of catch people cheating. And then after a couple of meetings, lectures were kind of, and other staff are, we have a small university centre here, and the dean said, why don't we use it as a tool that's going to help them use AI responsibly? And so kind of that's the direction we took. We kind of, in my mind, it was like, okay, let's catch them when they're cheating, have this Turnitin type system, like say it's kind of a punitive detection mechanism. And I'm sure you've heard, probably at your institution and other where, otherwise there's kind of lots of kind of false positives or false negatives, and none of the AI checking tools are really that accurate. But my mindset, let's catch them. But through working with staff and working with students, so we shifted to, well, why don't we teach learners to use it appropriately? So I kind of had this new mindset, and I wanted to like have transparency, and I wanted to support them, not kind of fear. And so I wanted to have a system that kind of guides them using the AI assessment scale as an indicator. Okay, so that's where we're at. And so after around, so I spent a summer kind of, I think the expression now is called vibe coding, but pretty much using AI to help me write the code that's going to produce this chatbot. So kind of the best way of explaining what it is and how it works is to use it. So we're just going to load it up now. And you notice we've got our main kind of chatbot style interface. So I'm just going to check that it's working. All right. Good. So there you go. It's working. Just checking everyone can see that. Yes, nod. Excellent. That's Ruben. Thanks, Ruben. And so you've got kind of a couple of features that might differentiate it from just ChatGPT. So let's say we wanted to do an essay about the great individual himself, Turing. Say, please create a 1-paragraph essay about Alan Turing. So misspell essay, but there you go. So it's got your response, and so far, so not great, because I've done very little there, and good, it's working, and that's not okay. So the students wanted kind of, there's two things here. You've got kind of a prompt that is acceptable. So this prompt on the side, I hope everyone can see that, is a prompt that falls within your kind of lower levels of the AI assessment scale. Okay, so you would suggest that this is helping you with kind of ideas and structure. Another feature to kind of highlight is it's now highlighted, I'm now using full AI. Okay, because I've just asked it to create a paragraph. Okay, there's no real input from me. There's no kind of thought process, just like do my work for me. So it's very clearly indicated to the learners that this is not okay, right? But just in case they want like an exemplar, they can now access that information. It's just kind of the ChatGPT input. Okay. Let's put in this and that. So this is a more acceptable input. Say, and you can argue this, it's still kind of structuring your essay, which is a skill in itself. But you've now, instead of it giving you the full essay, here are some points you might want to include. And you see on the AI assessment scale, ideas and structure has been highlighted. So you kind of got this traffic light system which tells the learner where they're at. And the idea is, if we, if and when we get into the testing phase, you can monitor the proportion of student responses that fall in these different categories. And over time, you can determine whether or not this system is having an effect. And just yesterday, I introduced a new mode, and I've called it Turing mode. And I'm just going to kind of quickly show you how that works. So if we go into Turing mode, it's just like a Word document. So I've got my kind of title, but it's got some extra functionality. And over the last 2 weeks, myself and the quality team have been delivering training on the updates to kind of referencing generative AI. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had a system that kind of did like it supported students in doing that? So what I added was this kind of Turing mode to say I've got a prompt, and now kind of JCQ, so the Joint Council of Qualifications, is suggesting that you need kind of screenshots of how you've used that tool. So I'm just going to drag my prompt and go to ChatGPT reference. And what it's done is it's created the reference and it's taken a screenshot of the prompt. So I just thought, that's going to speed up. You could just screenshot and copy and paste it into Word. I just thought that's a nice little feature. So they're the kind of they're the main kind of that's the main functionality. There's some kind of more things like so what is acceptable to put into it? So say you want to use it for research, find me a highly cited reference about Alan Turing. So that's kind of an okay use. Of course, you'd want your learners to go and double check that the materials that ChatGPT returns are acceptable, okay, or reliable, valid, etc. So that is the main system, and I might just very briefly show you kind of what's in the background. I'm going to show you some of the code. I'm not, I don't know my audience, but I'm presuming some of us are from quite a tech background. If you're not, don't worry. I'll just kind of show you what's going on in the background and tell you about kind of some of the challenges associated with the system as was. As promised, I'm just going to kind of show some of the background. And if you look at this and think, OMG, there's a lot going on there, I'm going to try and break it down for you as simply as possible. So what we've got is something called Visual Studio Code, and it's a development platform. So you've basically got ChatGPT over here, or GitHub Copilot, which I pay about £12 a month for, and it can help you basically make apps. And when I first developed this, that kind of system wasn't available, so I had to kind of type what I wanted into ChatGPT, give me some code, and I'd kind of hack it together. Now the system is phenomenal. Those who used it, it's so good. And I think it is CEO of Microsoft says, kind of he can see the end to software as service, because you can just write apps on demand in real time. So, I've been writing apps in my lessons and then getting the students to use it in the lesson, which is pretty phenomenal. Anyway, what I want to show you was the fact that, there's certain kind of requirements. You've got a database, so you've got every single prompt that's put in there. You don't want kind of students putting in kind of nefarious comments, ones that terrorist style comments, ones that kind of go against British values. So you can audit this. So you've got the information, you've got a database. Then how it runs is basically, see if I can find it, it's called the ChatGPT API, which is basically just using ChatGPT via code. It's got a whole bunch of different functionality. Let's see if I can remember where the class is. It's been a while. Oh, here we go. Good. So I've got the ChatGPT, and all I'm doing is I'm saying, you are a highly professional assessor, and then I'm asking it to assess it against, one sec, let's just find the version. Here it is. So this is just like typing into ChatGPT. This is what's going on in the background, and this is the AI assessment scale. So it's going to assess the user prompt according to these scales. And if I made the kind of prompts pop up, if it goes level 3 and above. So level 3 and above, I'm saying is not okay. So yeah, this is just for prompt. And it's just basically like just using ChatGPT, but programmatically. Okay, and you can see that my model is GPT-4 4.0. There are now newer models, but the reason I want to show you this is because it links to a challenge I've had. That challenge being described, call it on my slides here. Okay, so in trying to develop this system, and one of the reasons I haven't managed to get, apart from kind of asking for student feedback in the development phase, one of the reasons I haven't got it kind of tested with learners is because GDPR and kind of data residency. So this is built on ChatGPT API, which for some of you might know, I've got it so it doesn't train the system, but the student's data is stored, I don't know, somewhere in the United States, and that means we're not GDPR compliant. Okay, so I had a couple of meetings with IT, can we run this? And the answer was basically no, which is absolutely the correct answer. Yes, so recently I realized that we can overcome this problem through the implication of something called Azure OpenAI. So this is ChatGPT that powers Copilot. Okay, so I've now got a bit of a tedious video of how you set this up, but I kind of want to show it because it's quite tricky to navigate, and I kind of worked it out myself with ChatGPT helping me, and I'm just going to kind of talk you through it. Say there's something called the Azure AI Foundry, and by setting it up in this way, so I click play, it means you will be GDPR compliant. You have data residency. You can see I'm just going to that website now. You can see I've set up some models that I'm using already. And there's some kind of terminology. This is going to go quite quickly, but you basically end up with what's called a resource, and this is your large language model kind of that you will use, say ChatGPT 4.0. Right, and so you create a project. Let's skip on because I don't want you to fall asleep. You've got kind of what you need, a subscription, and this is how you pay for it. And you can, I think this has been recorded, so please go back through it in your own time. There are YouTube videos that kind of explain this much clearer than I've done so, but I just thought it's kind of useful to show if you're having similar issues. So you can set budgets. Let's go forward. So I've now got a resource group, and this bit is important because it's going to allow you to define the region. So everyone see that's UK South. So this means that all your data as it's processed by Microsoft is in the UK, right? It's not going anywhere else. You're now GDPR compliant, okay, by setting it up in this manner, as opposed to previously where the current app that I showed you is using just ChatGPT API. And I could change it, I just haven't got around to it yet. And you kind of see on and on and on. Yeah, say UK South. Okay, and then this is where you choose your resource, and there's kind of loads of information. And just to keep it simple, you want Azure services only, and you want Azure OpenAI. Just to note, I went on this yesterday, and they're kind of updating their kind of resources to the Foundry AI. It gets a bit technical. I don't think there's that much difference apart from you can choose a couple more kind of large language models. So there you go. Once again, UK South. I've named it so I know I can keep track of like my billing. And just for context, I've used this in another app, and my bill for last month was 2p. So I haven't kind of rolled it out to students, but I've probably put in about 100 prompts, and it's cost me 2p. So it's not like massively expensive. Ideally, your IT team or college would foot the budget. Currently, I'm running off my own email account, and the reasons for that are a little bit complicated. Well, they're not complicated. They're just I haven't really communicated with my IT team yet. that's the long and short of it. So, sorry, I'm rambling on. So now I'm going to kind of go to the final point, which is where, you you have your own API key, and once again, if you chat GPT this, it tells you how to kind of set up your code to use this. These keys are like cryptographic keys, which means that nobody else can use your API call, which means you're not gonna like it's not gonna cost you loads of money. It's only you and whoever you want to use it. Let's go forward a bit because your eyes might be glazing over. Finally, kind of choose your model. And the newer models, you tend to have to contact Microsoft and be a big company or, I don't know, a college, and they give you permission. But ones I've kind of accessed are the previous generation, so ChatGPT 4, and that's what I'm running in a couple of different apps at the moment. So then the final bit is, okay, yeah, UK South, once again, happy. And I know this is probably really confusing. I'm a teacher, trust me. Yeah, so it kind of tells you how to set up the app, kind of the code you need, and how to work it from there. Okay. I wonder if I have got a demo of getting it now it's data secure. I can now, with certain ethical guidelines in place, mark student work without any fear of GDPR or IP rights, because it's now stored in the UK. No one else is going to get access to it. And what we're doing with a couple of teams around the college is I've started building systems that are going to mark certain bits of formative work. So that's where we're at. Just through having this secure system, we can now kind of take the next step in terms of automating marking. And there's a lot of kind of should we, shouldn't we? We're kind of going ahead tentatively with that. This is maybe a bit grandiose, but Turing's legacy continued. So he decoded patterns to protect lives. We're kind of trying to support learners to use this marvelous system that's going to protect their integrity but maximize their learning. You need collaboration, like, educators, IT staff, students. We all need to kind of come together and agree an appropriate use. And also, I just wanted to kind of pass on a reflection. We started off in quite a punitive manner, and now it's like, well, how can we really support our students to use this? And I'm sure many of your institutions are going through a similar journey. The last is me kind of like asking for kind of partnerships, collaborations, just kind of unashamedly. I love to kind of form these groups, as Helen alluded to. So they're my contact details. That's my GitHub, and I'm just going to leave it open to any question.